and people said, your writing really changed between book 5 and book 6. It's tighter. You can see the jump that I made.
Welcome to Modern Publishing. I'm Victoria, author-editor and the owner of Blue Pen, and today I'm on with Michelle Cox.
So I'm interested. I've listened to so many different people now on different podcasts who have done it and done it well and successfully, are making like huge money. So I feel like, why not try it? You know, I think it's worth a go. And I'd also like to be able to sell other, like, I'd like to do like a Clive and Henrietta cookbook, a Clive and Henrietta coloring book. There's all kinds of merch that you can have on your site besides just the books. So I think that that's another whole arena, which would be fun to explore.
That is so fun. I feel like that really has to do a lot with the concept of authors looking at their work and at themselves as a business. You know, once you publish, once you're out there, you're more than just an author. You are a business, whether you want to be or not.
Yes, that is, I think, the hardest mindset to get across to new authors. Like, you are not just a creative, you're a business person too, and that your book, and that's something that Brooke Warner, the publisher of Shared Press, really drilled into us, is that your book is not a baby. It's not your child. It's a product, and you have to sell it. So you have to, whether you set out to do this or not, you are a small business. And I think that's something that I didn't fully understand at the beginning. I think I wasted a lot of money and a lot of opportunities not understanding that I need to set this up as a business and make better decisions instead of just like throwing money at anything that came along. So, you know, live and learn. But yeah, it is really important to see yourself as a business.
It is so hard in this industry specifically because writing does require so much of you. It is such a personal thing. And then you have to be able to step back, disconnect from it at some point and say, okay, this is now something that I've created. Like you say, this is a product and I'm going to sell it. And if somebody rejects it, if somebody leaves a bad review, it's not a reflection on me. They're not rejecting me. It's just the book. Yeah, for sure. And you know, it's two different sides of the brain, right? It's like the creative side is the one that's creating this, you know, beautiful thing, this beautiful piece of art that is going out into the world. And it is such an expression of yourself and your psyche and your creative talent. And I think it's really hard for authors because I'm not a numbers person at all. I mean, my brain doesn't operate that way. So it's been a lot of learning and trying to teach that side of my brain to, you know, pick up the slack. Because at first it's just easy to sort of ignore it. Like, oh, you know, that'll take care of itself. And no, that really doesn't. And so you have to sort of, nurture that. And like you're saying, you have to have a thick skin and not realize that it's not about you. It's not a rejection of you. It's just, okay, that's not my reader. But there's a different reader out there who is. We talked a little bit about, investments and maybe some things that you wouldn't have invested the time or money in. What is one of the best investments that you've made? Time or money?
The best investment that I made was hiring the developmental editor that freelances for the Big Five or the Big Four. So the way it happened is this. Okay, so I was at the Historical Novel Society conference in DC, and they had pitch sessions like most of these do. So I pitched a book I was working on to a new agent, and she really liked it. She said, send me the full manuscript. I did. And we ended up developing a sort of relationship. So she didn't end up taking the book. But then when I had another standalone novel ready, I sent it to her and I said, what do you think? And she said, I really like the book, but it needs some editing. And I said, okay, because I had been hesitant to work with any kind of developmental editor because I thought that I knew what I was doing and I was an English major and I had copy editors and proofreaders, but I never had a developmental editor. And I think that one of the reasons that I was so hesitant is because if you're going to work with an editor, you have to really trust that person. You have to trust that that person knows more than you do. And I had not been able to find that kind of a person where I thought they knew more than I did. I know this sounds really cocky, but I was just really hesitant. So I said, okay, Melissa, her name's Melissa. I'm like, all right, Melissa, this is the agent. If you think this needs editing, then you give me an editor that you trust. And so she gave me the name of somebody. I worked with her. It was okay. I went back to her and I'm like, she gave me two people. So I tried the second person and we had a conversation and I just instantly knew that she was the one. It's like, okay, I know that you understand this book. I know you get it. I know you get who I am. This sounds so fruity, but it really is like a marriage. It's like a relationship, and you have to trust each other that you're trying to put out the best product that you possibly can. And so I gave her the manuscript, and she was great. We worked really well together. I rewrote the book twice for her. So we got it into this perfect, because she used to be an acquiring editor for one of the big trad houses. So she's like, I know exactly what they're looking for. I know how tired they are, how many books they have on their desk at any given time. So she's like, I think we can make this book what they're looking for. So, because I worked with her and because I rewrote the book twice, I actually learned a lot about writing. So that was a huge, that made the investment worth it just for that. Because after that, I wrote book 6 of the series and people said, your writing really changed between book 5 and book 6. It's tighter. You can see the jump that I made, and it was because in that time period I was also working with Andrea. So I encourage anybody to find that person, find that editor that you trust, that you really work well with, that you feel like understands your book and what you're trying to do with it. And I've heard of people paying like developmental editors like $10,000-$15,000. That's ridiculous. Don't do that. Andrea was reasonable. I'm not going to tell you how much I spent on her, but it wasn't astronomical, and she was fantastic. So if you have the extra money, people always say that if you have an X amount of money, what do I spend it on? Definitely on editing and on a good cover. So that's what makes it.
And if anyone is wondering what an appropriate editing rate is, head over to the EFA, the Editorial Freelancers Association. They have rate standards where they survey members and get the median rates for different types of editing. This is US. There are comparable organizations in other countries, but EFA, Editorial Freelancers Association, that is what at Bluepen, that's what we use to set our rates. That's what most reputable editors use to set their rates. So if you find somebody who's charging significantly above or below that, be wary.
Yes, good advice. Yeah, definitely. They're a great organization.
Yeah, but the author-editor relationship, there are so many factors to what makes it good. And yeah, like you say, it is all about trust. If you don't have that trust that they're doing the best for your work, it's just not going to go well for anybody.
No, because you have to be able to take the edits. I mean, it's you have to be able to look at what they're suggesting, because of course you're going to not want to take any of their suggestions because you've already presented them what you thought was a perfect book. So when they come back and say, well, take this character out, or you've got to change this whole scene, you have to really believe that they know what they're talking about. And usually if you wait a week or two and think about it, you're like, maybe they're right. Maybe we don't need this character.
It is such an opportunity to grow and learn. I always encourage people to approach editing as a learning experience, because if you're there for that, you're going to get so much out of it.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying about, like, if somebody gives you a bad review, it's like you're paying this person for a service. You're paying them to make your book better. So you have to go into it, they're not out to get you, and they're not out to make your life horrible, or, you're paying them to make the book the best that it can be. So it's kind of good to keep that in mind too, that they don't have an ulterior motive to make your life terrible.
Yes, and a good editor, perhaps I shouldn't say a good editor, because you could be good at your job and not emotionally sensitive, I guess. But, most good editors are going to do a good job of framing feedback in a way that helps the author understand that this is not an attack. And we also don't claim to know everything. When an editor's working with a manuscript, they have the words on the page.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't know that backstory that you came up with that didn't make it into the book. They don't know, the dream that you had that inspired this. There's a lot of context that can be missing.
It's true.
And so you have to understand how to contextualize that feedback and how to bring everything that you have as an author that the editor doesn't have, and figure out the best way to apply that feedback and find solutions to the issues that they're outlining.
I agree. And I do think that is one of the things that maybe sets one editor apart from the next, is their ability to softly give the suggestions. And I think that makes all of the difference. And a lot of times I have found that most editors either are authors or were authors, and so a lot of them are sensitive and know what it feels like to get that feedback back. So I think that they tend to be the ones that can sort of cloud it a little better, so it's not so hard to take.
Thanks to our viewers for hanging out with us today. I hope this conversation has inspired you to blaze your own trail in the publishing industry. The full podcast episodes are available wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Modern Publishing. You can also head over to bluepinbooks.com/modernpublishing. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. Happy writing, and I'll see y'all next time.